Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the August 19th meeting of the Planning Commission of San Bruno. Roll call, please.
Chair Peterson,
Here.
Vice Chair Johnson, Commissioner Chase,
Here.
Commissioner Samad,
Here.
Commissioner Mishra,
Here. Commissioner
Bisada.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item of business is approval of the minutes of May 20th and June 17th. And if there's no objections, the motion could include both.
Chair,
Commissioner Chase,
I would make such a motion.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2 is communications. Staff, do you have communications?
There are no additional communications this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Item 3 is public comment on items not on the agenda. If someone wishes to speak on items that are not on the agenda, you can do so now. And seeing none, we'll close item 3 and move on to announcement of conflict of interest. Do any commissioners have a conflict of interest on any business tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5A, which is a 235 El Camino Real, which is request for a use permit to allow alcohol beverage sales in conjunction with a restaurant for chapters 1284-210 and 1296-100 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Staff report, please.
Thank you and good evening. The application is for a conditional use permit to allow the sale of beer and wine at a restaurant. The site is 235 El Camino Real. The site itself is just under 3,000 square feet and is developed with a commercial building that is 2,000 square feet. The site was previously used as a restaurant, so no other approvals, such as a parking exception, are required this evening. The only item before the Planning Commission is the consideration of the sale of beer and wine. The applicant has obtained a building permit and they have already started the tenant improvements on the site. The restaurant will be a Japanese sushi restaurant, serving lunch and dinner 6 days a week, being closed on Monday. They would close in the evening at 10:30 p.m. The site plan does not include any separate bar area, so it's just the service in beer and wine in conjunction with the restaurant and the sushi bar. The project was reviewed by the police department, as is the case for all applications for alcohol sales, and they did not have any concerns about the current proposal. Staff sent the required legal notice to the surrounding property owners, and we have not received any comments. The conditions of approval for the project that are included in the staff report include the customary conditions that we include for alcohol sales. Most notably, any increase in hours that would make the restaurant stay open later would be required to be approved by the Community Development Director and the Police Department. And if any issues should arise in the future, the Community Development Director would have the authority to call it back to the Planning Commission for consideration. Staff does recommend approval of the project. We find that it would include an investment in an existing restaurant use along El Camino Real, and we would not anticipate it resulting in any undue or negative impacts on the surrounding community. So we would recommend approval of the project subject to the findings of fact in the staff report and subject to the conditions of approval. And I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any commission questions for the staff? Okay, I'll open the public hearing. If the applicant is here, please step to the podium and make any presentation you wish, and give your name and street name for the record, please. You don't have to make a presentation if you don't want to. Okay. Any other members of the public wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring the matter back to commission for discussion.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Chase.
I should have asked this question prior to staff, but as I was looking through the conditions of approval underneath the police department, I got just two questions. Number one, number 13, it says the handicap parking stalls shall be painted and marked. That's their jurisdiction, right?
It's actually kind of a joint jurisdiction and enforcement. In this case, our plan check engineer has been working very closely with the applicant on ADA accessibility. And so they have come up with a plan for that, which is approved. But the police department just wanted to reinforce that in this case, since the parking on the site is limited.
Okay. Then the other question I have is I noticed on the plans, big bold print that said, no sprinklers. Can you explain to me why that is? It says,
In this case, it's because they're using the same plans, that was the initial plans that they submitted for their building permit plan check. And so they were utilizing the same set of plans as where they started out with the building permit. And so those plans did advance a little bit as they were working through the building permit plan check process. But there are some notes on this plan set that are before you tonight that you would perhaps not customarily see, because they would be included in the plan check process. So in this case, the person that drew the plans is noting that there are not fire sprinklers, because that changes the way that the plans are plan checked through the permit process.
the fire department's okay with no sprinklers?
Yeah, there are different thresholds for when fire sprinklers are required and when you're allowed to mitigate any potential fire danger through smaller systems or hood systems or around the cooking apparatus, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion or possibly a motion?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Chase.
No other commissioners have any questions, I'll make a motion then that we approve use permit 14-012 based on findings of fact 1 through 5, conditions of approval 1 through 15.
Second.
Okay, so motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and there's a 10-day appeal period. Thank you very much. The next item of business then is 6A, update on city's ballot measure initiative, Measure N, related to the implementation of the San Bruno Transit Corridors Plan.
Chair Peterson and Planning Commissioners, the purpose of this agenda item really is to give you an update, not just on the ballot measure that's going forward, but also on the city's Transit Corridors Plan. The Transit Corridors Plan has a full implementation chapter, and among the next steps include kind of moving forward to address some areas of concern as the Steering Committee, Planning Commission, and City Council put together the Transit Corridors Plan. The Transit Corridors Plan, as you well know, is a plan with the intent to really provide some incentive for private investment and private development in the Transit Corridors Plan area, about 155-acre. That includes our major transportation corridors, El Camino Real, San Mateo Avenue, San Bruno Avenue, and Huntington Avenue. So the idea is really to create an incentive-based plan document, and we have those documents before you tonight. Our staff placed those at the dais for you for your review. As the steering committee and community looked at this area and looked at some of the impediments for development and redevelopment, they saw that the adopted ordinance 1284, had a number of elements that really got in the way of redevelopment and development occurring in this area. Ordinance 1284 was adopted in 1977 and included a number of different aspects, and those aspects included that the maximum building height within the entire community could not be higher than 3 stories or 50 feet, that there could be no above-ground multi-story parking garages, and that the residential densities that were established here in this community in 1974 would hold firm. During the preparation of the Transit Corridors Plan, it was identified that these, in fact, were hindrances really to new development and redevelopment. And so as the plan was adopted by the City Council in February of 2013, one of the implementing steps was to bring to the voters of this community an opportunity to consider amendment of 1284. So that's been discussed. It actually went to the City Council at a meeting on July 22nd, and the City Council has directed staff to work with the Elections Office here in San Mateo County to bring forward a ballot measure. That ballot measure has been identified as Measure N, and Measure N will be in the upcoming ballot on November 4th of this year. The intent of Measure N is to give the citizens of San Bruno an opportunity to consider formally amending Ordinance 1284. And the ballot language, a copy of which is in front of you at the dais, but the ballot language states that to stimulate economic enhancement shall the city amend Ordinance 1284 only in San Bruno's Transit Corridors Plan area, nowhere else in the city, only in this Transit Corridors Plan area, to allow the following. Buildings exceeding the maximum height of 50 feet, which is the current standard, by 20 feet on El Camino Real, 15 feet on San Bruno Avenue, 5 feet along San Mateo Avenue, and 40 feet in the Caltrain station area. That's item 1. Item 2, to allow development on 42 residential parcels exceeding the density permitted in 1974. And finally, to allow above-ground multi-story parking garages, again, only within the Transit Corridors Plan area. The idea, as I mentioned earlier, is really to provide for an incentive-based document plan to really allow for the vision for revitalizing this important area of our community. And what are the benefits? What can we foresee as this may move forward? First, in terms of benefits, we would see the stimulation of economic activity in this important area of the community, creating new housing. We anticipate that there could be as many as 1,610 new housing units within the Transit Corridors Plan area. We have a number of vacant storefronts and obsolete infrastructure and some blight in the downtown. The hope with this stimulus package really is that there could be new stores, new shops, new restaurants, the housing I mentioned, and new infrastructure brought to this area. We also hope for vibrant public spaces, spaces in the downtown where people can gather. There could be outdoor dining, etc. We also look for bicycle lanes. We look for creating pedestrian-friendly areas with landscaping along San Mateo Avenue, San Bruno Avenue, El Camino Real. We also hope with this plan and this vision being realized that with the new development, there would be new revenues to the city which would cover city's costs for the new development. And these new revenues would be property taxes, sales taxes, transient occupancy taxes. So creating a new vital place or a revitalized area for the community is central to this plan, and providing incentives so that the private sector can really lead the way is what this project and plan is all about. Measure N will go before the voters on November 4th. Where we stand at this point is that arguments both for and against Measure N have been received by the city clerk. Those were received on August 15th. The next step really would be that for those parties that submitted the arguments for and against, they would have the opportunity to provide rebuttals to the opposing point of view to the city clerk, then forwarded to the elections office. Those rebuttals need to be received by the city clerk's office by August 25th. Also by August 25th, our city attorney will prepare and submit an impartial analysis. And then we really move into basically the public information and campaign period leading up to the election on November 4th. As far as voting is concerned, voters can register by October 20th. Registration can occur online. Between October 6th and October 28th, voters can request a mail-in ballot. Those mail-in ballots then can be turned in up to and including on Election Day. That's an update of where we are in terms of the transit corridors plan and moving forward with the ballot initiative, which would appear before the voters on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff on the update? Okay. Item 7A is city staff discussion.
The item that we have there really is to look for volunteers, as we typically do at this point on the agenda for the next Architecture Review Committee meeting. We are looking for 3 volunteers for the September 11th meeting. Okay, Commissioner Biasotti, Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you.
Okay. And is there any planning commission discussion?
Through the chair, I would just like to thank staff for all the hard work that went into this. This plan and this vision has been coming, and we've all been working on it so diligently for so many years, and it's really exciting to see that it's actually coming before the voters. So thank you very much from me, and I'm sure all of us, for all the hard work you guys have put into that.
Thank you.
Any other items? Okay, hearing no other business, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for coming.